We're
Yes, I have.
back.
We are back. Welcome, everyone. We are back at
Wow.
our table.
Has it been crazy? Or I can't even find the words to describe what the past year and a half has been.
Oh, it's been an out of body experience, hasn't it?
It really
It-
has.
it's one of those things that you read in sci-fi
Totally.
novels.
I keep
And
saying it's like a bad sci-fi movie.
yes, or
Yeah.
one of those movies that I always refused to watch because there were all these scientific things that the world was going to do this, or there was a pathogen that was going to come in, and we were, and I always refused to see those movies because I would say, oh, that is just the most asinine thing. I am not going to go down that road. Like I'm
Yeah.
not even going to think of that
Well, that's
because
where all the conspiracy theories
yes,
come from
yes,
that.
you're absolutely right. We are not going down that road today, that's for sure. But I just, it was a type of thing where, oh my God, this is real. This is real.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, we all lived through this together. It's just
Yeah.
we all have throughout this whole entire world have something that we're all have in common that we've
Isn't
gone
that,
through.
when you think about it that way, I mean, it'd be nice to have something else in common. But,
Yes, yes,
when you say, everybody has their struggles, yes, everybody does have their struggles. But for the first time, truly,
yeah,
like you said, everybody in the whole world was facing this challenge
yeah,
together
yeah,
at the same time. And
yep,
so everybody seemed to, well, I don't want to say everybody, but it just seemed like there was a greater amount of like empathy and cutting people slack
yes,
and,
yes, yes,
and
yes,
you and I talked, frequently
yep,
during the course of the pandemic and talked about
yep,
like, we have the time, shouldn't we be doing the podcast? And frankly, it was, I mean, I was depressed. I think
yes.
you were depressed.
I
And
was depressed as well. I
I
think.
feel like every episode would have just been us bitching
Oh,
about stuff.
it was depressing for the simple fact that, you know, uh, and I said this before to my husband Bob. I'm like, honey, I love you. And I do. I love him dearly. But thank God I like him too.
Yeah, no,
Because
that's true.
we were together for those 3 months without us being able to see our children. It was just him and I and our dog Gracie.
That's it.
That's it.
That's
And
crazy.
and it's crazy to think that. And yes, we did, video, and we spoke every day, and I wanted them to be on video so I could see them, to
Mm-hmm.
see my girls and make sure that they were okay. And everybody was spread out. Everybody is in different states. All my 3 girls are in 3 different states. So it was like, I number one, for I was afraid. I think anyone out there was felt the same as you and I. We were
Mm-hmm.
afraid. We were afraid of the unknown because we really
Mm-hmm.
didn't know everything. And then we'd listen to scientists, and you'd have one scientist say one thing, another scientist say another, and it was like, oh
Yeah,
my
or
God,
one week you should wear a mask, the next week, oh, masks
it's
don't
okay. Or
matter.
if you
Yeah.
do
Mm-hmm.
this, if you do that,
Yeah.
wipe down everything. So do you know, in the very beginning, we weren't going to the grocery stores. We were
Mm-hmm.
having them deliver. We,
Mm-hmm.
we we had Instacart, so everybody
Yeah.
was delivering everything to our home, and we had a assembly line, a process, which was like, when you think about it now, it was the most stupidest thing ever, but it
Do you
was it was what we thought we had to
to
do.
do wipe down everything?
Yes. So
Yeah.
it was delivered, it was left in our back door, by the back door. Then Bob would get it, wipe it down with wipes that, because we couldn't find any more wipes, but we found wipes here. We had to wipe things down. Then I would take it, and then it, it was like, when you think of it now, like the most stupidest things we did. But at the time, we didn't know. At the
Right.
time, at the time, we thought we were doing what we were supposed to do.
Or
you know,
spray, we were spraying all the mail in
spraying
boxes with
everything.
Lysol. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes. Spraying, wiping down everything, cleaning every
yeah.
freaking counter over and over and washing our hands. And it was like, my hands, I have very sensitive skin.
You're so delicate.
I'm a delicate flower. I really am a delicate flower. And so it was like, I'm using like everything with like 99% whatever, this and
Mhm.
that. My hands were like red and it was
Yeah,
it was just it was awful. It was just awful. I am just so happy that that is like behind us.
the worst of it is over. At least
Yes,
we hope, right? And
yes,
things are starting to open
yes,
up again. And
yes, yes, yes,
um,
yes, yes.
yeah, no, for sure. Because and then you think about people that weren't used to being home all the time together,
Yeah,
and now
yeah,
all of a sudden, and it just felt. I mean, there's only three of us here, right? But
yeah.
it felt very crowded, and it's like, how does three people feel crowded? Is it because you're with each other
All the time.
24/7
Yeah,
all the time? There's
yeah,
nowhere to go.
yeah,
Like for a while, you couldn't even like go out your front door. You couldn't talk to
yeah,
your neighbors because you were like afraid to be near anybody.
yeah.
So yeah, it was a pretty tough year. And I know that when we would talk, like you could just feel like that
Oh,
we were
yeah.
both down, like, and so the energy wasn't there. And then we talked again a couple of months ago, and the energy was just so different, right? Like,
Yes, yes, yes.
we're
Well,
and for me, maybe it was the Zoloft, I don't know, but it's
hey, I
clearly.
am all for antidepressants. If it helps you get out of or anybody get out of whatever it is, go for it. Go to your
Yeah,
doctor and
it
prescribe,
helps.
and it helps.
It does.
Absolutely. And what's in all of this, I had good friends of mine who lost their loved ones.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Oh, it's
I did too. Yeah.
and in all of that, at this was like very early on in all of this horrible escapade that we've been all through. And I could not be there for them. I could not go to their home and be there with them or give them a hug, or
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
it's everything that we've always been able to do, we couldn't do.
Yeah. Well,
And
Adrian's dad passed away
that's
during the
right.
COVID, and he couldn't go to Portugal for the funeral.
That's
And
right.
so, I
That's
mean,
right.
just so heartbreaking because, I mean, whenever a parent passes away, but he and his dad were so close. And so having to attend that funeral via FaceTime, I mean, good Lord, it was just such a bizarre
It
experience, you
is.
know?
It really
Um,
is. It
mhm,
almost, like I said, it's an out of body experience. It is beyond anything that we would have ever imagined.
right. And so we said that today we would talk about lessons learned
Oh,
from this whole
yes.
thing.
Yes.
So yeah, I've written down a couple things, but I don't know if you want to go first.
No,
Do you
no,
have
no. Go
some?
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, honey. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, a lot of it has to do with self-care and mental health, right? Like, so
Yeah.
if there's one thing that I learned, and I think a lot of my friends and family have learned, is that it's okay to not have it all together. You know
Isn't
what I
that the
mean?
truth?
Like,
That
there's
is, that
always
is.
this pressure that, oh, you have time, you're home now, you should be cooking everything and cleaning everything, and your house should be perfect, and you should, you know, always look good. And it's just like, no, because
Yeah.
I don't know about other people, but I feel like we were even more stressed being home. There, like our house was even messy than it was before. And at some point, you just have to cut yourself a break and be
Yeah.
like, listen,
Yeah.
we're
I
doing the
agree.
best we can. There's a lot going on here
Yeah.
between Zoom school and working from home and trying to still eat healthy and stay sane and stay social, right?
Yeah.
Because we were not meant to not be social. We were not meant to
Right.
just be on our
Right.
own and not, interact with people.
Right.
So if there was one thing I learned is that, it's okay if you don't, if you're not perfect. It's okay
Oh,
if you don't
yeah.
look, if you're not dressed on point every day, and that your house isn't, immaculate every day. And, if you get takeout every night, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's
Absolutely.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what? And with that, where that lesson is, it's, it's okay. The same lesson that I have, or lessons learned for me, was that in the same way of we have to, how can I explain it? In listening to what you're saying is absolutely how I feel as well. That is a lesson that I learned as well, is that it is okay for that. Because in the long run, what is more important? Is it the house being cleaned, or is it, being with your family, or being with your loved ones and all that? And I will take my family and my loved ones over a cleaned house, because if I go tomorrow, it doesn't matter if I leave my house cleaned, or it doesn't matter if I leave it cleaned, or if I leave this world knowing that my children know that, and my family, that I love them and all of that stuff. So in the long run, what is the most important? But in all that, it is also self-care.
Yes, that was another one on my list. Yes.
It is self-care, because in the beginning of all this, I think, like all of us, we just stuffed our faces. We did.
Yes,
we did. And I learned something, and I already knew. I already knew that. I love to cook, as everyone knows, I love to cook, but more than anything, I love to feed people. I love to feed people. I love that whole thing of doing that. Well, now we were left with, for a good long time, of just Bob and I, Tracy.
No entertaining.
Yeah, no entertaining, no, but I was still making those big pots of food. Like, I was still making it for everyone, which is crazy. And
so
then,
is your freezer full?
Oh, it was. And then, it was beyond too much, to the point where Bob went, Maria, you have to stop cooking as much. It's just the two of us. And it's like, oh my God, yes, you're right. I'm so sorry. It's like, oh my God, what am I doing? And then I did not go on the scale, because I think, like anyone who, I hate that stupid scale. And at one time I had the scale in the basement, like hidden in the corner of the basement, so I wouldn't even have to look at it. So the scale came out, and I, like everyone else, I gained a ton. And I went, oh my God, I am stuffing myself. Because when we're sad, when we're happy, we eat. When we're sad, we eat. When we, it's all of these things. And we were, if anyone says they were not scared through all of this, they're freaking lying. Because I think we were all in that same boat. And under stress, I tend to eat.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's natural. A lot of people do.
Yeah. And no, not everybody. I know people who are stressed, they don't eat. But I did not inherit
I wish that was
gene.
my problem.
Yeah, no, I did not inherit that gene. No, I didn't. But it really is self-care. And we really have to understand that before we're here for our children, for our husbands, for our friends, our loved ones, all of that stuff, we need to put ourselves in there too. And because if we're not well, how can we take care of them if we can't take care of ourselves?
Absolutely. Well, so amazingly, I didn't gain a ton of weight, because I didn't necessarily eat more, but what I did do is I started drinking a lot more.
Yeah.
And I was never a daily drinker. Really, I never was. Maybe on the weekends.
Yeah.
Because I just, having to get up and go to work and everything, I wouldn't be able to function in the morning. But now that we don't have to go to work, and even though I have been consulting and working from home for a few years, but it was just the whole stress of it, as you talked about.
Yeah.
And it was like, come 5 o'clock, between the Zoom classroom stuff and work and everybody, I was just like, I need a drink. And so, every night it was like, clink, clink, clink.
Yeah.
And, and that's not healthy either. And so, have pulled back on that, thankfully, because again, things have opened up, you're not as stressed, really is back
Yep.
in the classroom. And it's just, so that's kind of gotten back under control as well, but yeah, I mean, everybody has their vice,
Yeah.
or what they turn to release the
And
stress.
and I know we discussed really briefly when we were talking about, I changed doctors, and
Yes.
I
Oh
went
my
I
gosh.
went to another doctor, and he was amazing. And I have been doing telehealth now for oh goodness, what is it? It's going on since last November.
Okay, so good 7 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And with him and his help and all of that stuff, I've made a lot of changes in my diet, in my and he's been wonderful, and I've lost the weight that I gained,
That's
and I've
great.
lost a little bit more, which is wonderful because I need to keep up with my granddaughter.
Yeah. No, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's again lessons learned, but
Yeah.
we have to come to it ourselves. It's not like
Yes.
anyone
No one
is
can do
going
it
to.
for you or force you to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It really is. And sometimes we have to learn it the hard way.
Hmm.
Um,
Part of my self-care lesson learned is that, you have to take time out for yourself. And that doesn't mean that you love your family any less,
yeah.
or that you don't like your family or anything
Right.
like that. It just means that everybody needs their time alone. And whether that's a half an hour or 2 hours, and whether that means you're just sitting and having a cup of coffee, or you're going to, working out, or going for a walk, whatever it is, it's just important for everybody to have that me time, that time to just, okay, this is me. No one's asking anything of me. No one is making any demands. I don't have to take care of anything. I don't have to cook. I don't have to work. I don't have to, I don't have to be on a call. I don't have, I don't have to feed the dog. Like, I'm just going to sit and be me. And
Yep.
it sounds like such a simple thing. Like, really, is that going to help? Yes. In a time where you are home with everybody 24/7 and everybody's in your face all the time, taking that time out to just have some me time is hugely important.
Yeah.
Hugely important.
Yes, it
So
is.
I think that was another big thing for me. And I would even say, like, because Aurelia is so, she's still pretty attached to me, right? And so it's like, I go to the bathroom and she's sitting there and I'm like, it stinks in here. She's like, I know, but I want to be with you. So, so I would literally have to say, listen, mommy needs a half an hour. Okay. I'm going to set a timer, and a half an hour, then we can read, we can play a game, whatever, but mommy needs a half an hour. So please
Yeah.
go in the other room,
Yeah.
and I would be like, doesn't mean I don't love you. Doesn't mean anything. It just means that mommy needs a half an hour. I think being upfront and vocalizing, as opposed to like letting them interpret, why does mommy not want to be with me?
Right.
Kind of thing,
Right.
is important.
Right.
But yeah, just don't
Well,
feel guilty about taking time for yourself.
no, absolutely not. And well, the thing with us here, it was just Bob and I. And Bob continued working. My husband, continued working. And they just switched off remotely, and he was working from 8 to 5 every day. And we have a in-house office that he's always had, so he would go downstairs to the office and close the door, and off he was. So during the day, of course I would see him. Lunchtime, we'd have lunch together. Or if he was in between a conference or whatever, he'd come up, and whatever the case may be. So I never felt like oh my God, give me space, I've seen enough of your face, you know what I mean?
You're lucky.
because because we did have that, because he did, he worked from home. So it was a type of thing where he's just very, this is what I do, this is my job, this is the thing. And he's very on point on that.
Right.
So
you guys also have the space to do that, right? Like, you have a 2-story,
yes,
right? So
yes.
he's upstairs. Yeah. See, our house is pretty small, so it's like we're all looking at each other all the time. Even
Yeah.
I
What's
had
funny? When we bought this house, it was just us and our daughter. And we thought, okay, this is great for the three of us. And then, of course, we had the twins after, and it was like, oh my God, this house is so small. We need a bigger house. Oh my God, oh my God. And then one by one, they left. And now
No,
it's
it's
back.
perfect again.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's back to Bob
Yeah.
and I. So it's just like, okay. Sometimes it's like, oh, do we want to even downsize even further and do like,
Mhm.
because we don't need all of this now for just him and I. But yeah,
It's still a good it's still a good entertaining house though.
yes, it
Don't
is.
get rid of it too
Yes, yes,
quickly.
yes, yes. And so so that part, I the thought of now things opening up and having him start traveling again is something that I'm going, oh, I'm gonna miss having you home. It's
That's funny.
it is, isn't it? It really is, because it's throughout, I mean, from, oh my goodness, since my babies were babies, since they were
Mhm.
born, he has been, he travels every week. And, and it's just the way it is. That's
Mhm.
his job, and that's how it is, how we're able to, do what we do and pay our bills and all of that stuff. So to have him for this time, to me, was a blessing. It really was a
Yeah.
blessing, because we've never had all of this time where it's been many, many years that
Mhm.
he's been home and being able to be like that. So in that sense, I'm gonna miss him once he does all that again. We
Well,
go
maybe
back
he just
to
needs to retire and then you guys can be home all the time together.
no,
And
no, he's
then
still too young. He's still too young to do that. But it's getting there. It's getting there. We're getting there in the ages. We're cool. We're getting there. But let's not forget, I'm older than him.
you are? Didn't know that.
Yes, yes, we've shared that before. I'm older than
My
him.
memory is going these days.
So if anything, I'll be able to retire before him.
That's awesome. So how I know this isn't really a lesson learned, but I'm curious as to how like the book is going and the show. I mean, we have to talk about the show because you've gone
Oh,
national.
oh my God.
It was just
I
when you called and told me that, I mean, what is like sweet victory was like the first thing that came to
it
my
it
head,
it is talk about surreal. I can't even come to like say, I think I jumped up and down.
Yes, for sure.
And all right, let's put it this way. You know how you have a goal and you have it, you work towards it, people are keep telling you how hard it's going to be, it's not going to happen, just don't get your hopes up, it's not
Mhm,
gonna,
mhm.
it's not going, and you keep going, but you keep going because you're like, you got to keep going because you believe in it and you believe it's going to happen somehow, somewhere. And and then you know I when was it? Beginning of the year, I said to Rhode Island PBS again, I'm like, you know what? I want to submit it for distribution. I want to have it. I want to, let's do it. I want to
Mhm.
do it. And they said, well, we're just going to tell you right now, Maria, it's you know that you're not going to get any money from it. I'm like, yes, I understand. There's no money. I know it's PBS.
Mhm,
There's no money.
mhm,
I get
mhm.
it. Loud and clear. I've got that. And if anything, you've got to submit in, there's fees to submit, you're going to be doing this and this. You've got to submit for each one. You've got 8 of them. I'm like, yes, I got it. And they're like, and the whole thing is it's very rare that, a first season like this gets picked up for distribution. Usually it's like once you're into a second season or like
Mhm.
like a series that's like well oiled.
Established. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So for them to take a series that's just, a first series, It's really rare. It's like, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. And so you can do it, but we're just letting you know, don't get your
chances are pretty slim. Yeah.
Yeah. Chances are like slim to none. And so they kept, and what's really wonderful is, I have to say this, is that Rhode Island PBS has been really amazing, to the fact that, they've always been very forthright and like direct with me. They
That's
do
great.
they do not sugarcoat anything. And so and they're like, you understand, because they're like, we don't want you to get, upset if,
it doesn't
you don't
happen,
hear,
right?
it doesn't happen. And also, Maria, you can submit, but it takes like months. And sometimes you will not hear anything. And if you haven't heard anything within 3 months, just know that they're not interested in it. So I went, okay, all right, I get it. So I said to Bob, well, like we talked about it, Bob and I talked about it, and we went back and forth and all of that. And I'm like, no, I got to do it. Let's do it.
Because probably, as we've talked about in the past, if you don't even try, then you will always wonder, like,
exactly.
I wonder what would have happened.
Exactly.
So you just gotta
do it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
And at this point now, I'm thinking to myself, hell, we might all die. It's like,
yeah,
what do I have to lose in this part? Because this could be, we have no idea. Because this is still during, a lot
COVID,
of, a lot of crazy shit. Oh, stuff. I'm sorry. This is a rated G, podcast. And so I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we did it. We submitted it, and I went, okay, this is it. If
now we wait.
This is it. Like, I've done what I need to do, and now the rest is, whatever. And even if they had said no to me, I was still going to go for season 2. I just knew that most likely they would pick it up with season 2 and 1, and they would pick one from then. You know what I mean? So, okay. So we submit it. And I get the email from the distributor, and it says, thank you for submitting. We will get back to you if we're interested. If you don't hear from us within, just like they said, if you don't hear from us within, 3 months, we're, gladly declining. Thank you so much for thinking of us, kind of thing. Okay. So there is no word of a lie. Within 3 days, I got a response.
No. 3 days.
72 hours. 3 days.
What?
72 hours.
Holy crap.
Yep. And it was the VP of the distributor.
Oh my God.
And the thing was, we love it. We want it. Let's make this happen. And I'm going to start crying. I was just thinking about it. It was like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Bob, do you want to read this? Because I just want to make sure
I'm reading this right.
I'm reading this correctly. And he's like, oh my God, and it's like, oh, it was just like the jumping up and down. And then it was like, oh my God, how can I keep this quiet? Because it takes a long time for things to happen, for things to work, for things to get, whatever. And it was Bob and I who kept it quiet to ourselves for a bit. And we didn't even tell our daughters. I didn't say anything, because I kept thinking, there's got to be something wrong. I'm going to hear something, and they're going to say, oh, we didn't mean to send that to you. This was a mistake.
Yeah, right.
You know
supposed
what
to go
I mean?
To somebody else.
Yes. And I just could not, I just had to be sure. And then it was PBS Rhode Island going, oh my God, Maria.
You're never
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's true. This is really true. And they're like, yes,
Yes.
it's
Like you
really
beat the odds
true.
big time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then that's when we told our daughters, and then that's when we told close friends, and this is when, and it's just it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And the whole thing is for the first time ever, it is, and I get it. Someone sent me a message when I said this the other day, and they reminded me of all the shows that had Portuguese stuff on it.
Mhm.
And you know what, at this point, I don't even bother answering it because it's not true. They did episodes here
Episode,
and
not a
there,
full show dedicated
not a
to
full
Portuguese
show
culinary. Yeah. Mhm.
dedicated to just everything about Portugal, being
Right.
Portuguese, our culture, our food, our people, and no matter where we are around the world.
Right.
This is a whole different animal.
You
It is
have made history. You have made history. You are the Lydia of the Portuguese American culinary world. I mean,
I
right?
love, if I can come, oh my God, as close as possible to her, that would be a dream come true, because I love what she does. I love everything
Hmm.
she does,
Hmm.
and what she does for the Italian community.
Yeah.
And I met her. I've met her, and I stood in line for several hours to meet with her. And when I got to her, I had all my books of hers that I wanted her to sign. And I said to her, I said, I know you're Italian and I'm Portuguese, but we have the same stories to tell. And it's true.
Hmm.
It's like she absolutely is the epitome of what, an immigrant who continued her, the struggles, the hard work, this and that, but she is much more. I mean, she's just a chef. It's beyond.
Yeah, well, she's also been at it for a long time. I mean, how long
Yeah,
has her
but
show been on?
I don't want
So
any restaurants. I don't want any, no, 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 nothing like that. But I absolutely, it's beyond, I am just, but
we're
now,
all proud of you, and
oh, thank you,
incredibly proud
honey.
of you.
Thank you. But I have to say this, and I said this the other day to someone. I said, yeah, I that table didn't have anybody from Portugal or who Portuguese person sitting at that table. All the other nationalities have been sitting at that table on
Hmm.
PBS and all of that. And
Yep.
now I'm representing. But you know what? There are plenty of empty seats next to me.
Absolutely.
Yep. I,
Absolutely.
I don't want to hear any excuse of we can't do it. We haven't been able to do it. It can't be done. Bull. It can.
Hmm.
It can. It can. A lot of work, a lot of no's, a lot of people saying you can't do it. But guess what? You can. You can.
Well, the you can't do it is the perfect motivator for, oh yeah, watch me,
Teimosa. That's what,
right?
yes, my grandmother would say, tu és teimosa. Yes, I
Yeah.
am very
Well,
stubborn. I am.
sometimes that's the temosa. I tell her really temosa, but you know what? That temosa is gonna get her somewhere someday.
Yes, it will.
You know?
And the other thing that always was in my ear, always was in my ear. And again, we've talked about this too, is um, my grandmother, oh my God, my mom's mom, my maternal grandmother, she would always say, sempre à frente, sempre à
Yes.
frente, and I love that, and I know that's a very Portuguese saying, and, always look forward, always look ahead. You never look back, it's always
Yeah.
ahead, always moving towards what you need or what you need to do. Sempre à frente. And so I had her in my ear. I had her
Mhm.
in my ear telling me that. I could hear her telling me that.
Well, and
So
it's such great advice, and it's such a good mantra to live by, because you can apply it to literally every aspect of life,
yes, yes,
whether it's your career, your personal life, you know, trying to achieve the next great thing, grieving. I mean, there's just so many things that can be applied to.
Yeah,
You know
you're
what I mean?
absolutely right.
So it's a good, really good mantra to live by.
Yeah.
But well, so tell everybody, listen, so, okay, so when do we know when our local PBS stations have listed it?
All right.
So
when
yeah.
I gave, which it literally is, I gave to the distributor, the PBS distributor, the 8 episodes, and I gave rights to it, them to have rights to it for 3 years. That was the contract, 3
Okay.
years. So in 3 years, PBS, it is in the catalog. They actually showed me the catalog. They forwarded it to me and said, here you are. Maria's Portuguese Table is in the PBS catalog. And so starting June 7th, if I'm not mistaken, PBS stations throughout all of the United States can go into that catalog and
pull
pick it up
what they want. Okay.
And exactly. So they can air it as often as they like, whenever they like, and they will have that right for 3 years.
So we need to, so everybody listening, go to your local PBS station website, click contact us and write, please pick up Maria's Portuguese Table from the catalog of available shows.
Because it is there. It is there.
Like, I want to make sure people like know the right language to use, right? Because
they
need to, we know it's available to you.
Yeah, it is available.
So just pick it up.
Oh yeah, it is available to them, and they need to know that there is a Portuguese community, a foodie community out there that needs to see this, because this is history making. Yeah. And one of what's funny is I've already heard for some PBS stations. I heard.
That's so amazing. Who'd you hear from?
I heard from a station. Oh my goodness, is the West. Because there's some different ones in Florida. West Coast PBS. Okay. They sent me a message and saying, we're getting emails.
Oh, that's awesome.
Calls. So for those in Florida, I love you. Thank you. And
go Florida.
But it's so funny to know that, how many, the top 10, the top 20, the top 25, states in the United States that have the most Portuguese, in it is like, I can go down the list of how many, how they go by, but we all know it's California, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Florida's number 5. Then it's New York, it's Connecticut, Hawaii is number 8. It's Texas. Yeah. Texas is number 9, Texas. And then this one surprised me, 10, Washington State. There's so many Portuguese in Washington State. Who knew?
Yep.
Then Oregon, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Virginia. Oh, I heard from Virginia PBS too. They actually had people sending the article, because I've had so many interviews. Like
the Herald News and stuff?
Yeah. And not only that, but also in Portugal. In mainland Portugal, magazines in Portugal, as well as RTP, Telejornal. It was like, it's been, and so they got that. And so it was like, we know that you are popular. Thank you.
You should write back and say, you have no idea.
No, it's like, and I wrote back and I said, I have amazing fans and followers. And I do, I really do. And then Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Georgia, Maryland, Colorado, Illinois, Maine, Ohio, South Carolina, Michigan, Missouri, Idaho. And then I'm going to say Vermont, Alaska, Minnesota, Montana, and North Dakota. And those last ones border Canada. And I want those stations to carry it so that my Canadian friends, I can see it. So it is like all.
So Canada has to have a PBS equivalent, right?
Yes. I need to get it up in Canada.
Canada.
need to
Anybody in
clean up in
Canada?
Canada.
We need a
You know,
contact.
yeah. And then I had found out from the distributor that what happens is it first goes, oh, is that our timer?
That's our timer.
Oh my God. We didn't tell everyone what we were doing. We
Nope.
said we were going to time ourselves for 40 minutes because we tend to talk and over talk. And
Yeah.
so we said, we're not doing that this time. We're going to give ourselves 40 minutes and then we'll know to close up.
Well,
But,
we have our segment where we have to talk
yes,
about food, but
yes.
talk about Canada Real Fish. We'll finish up with that.
Well, I know that there's PBS Create and PBS World. And so after it goes to all the stations and all of that, they give the stations like first round of picking up and showing, but then there's a possibility of PBS World. And so
amazing.
I know. And do you know, I've heard from people congratulating me since it aired on RTP, on Telejournal. Of course, it aired in all the Portuguese communities throughout the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard from Portuguese in Johannesburg, you know, the Portuguese throughout Canada, the Portuguese throughout US, the Portuguese
sure.
in Portugal, and as well as Australia, which was like, oh,
that's awesome.
It's really awesome. We're everywhere. And everyone was like, congratulations, you know, we're rooting for you. So happy, you know, so proud. It was really overwhelming. It was really overwhelming. It's yeah.
It's just the beginning, because then we're going to get season 2.
Yes.
Season 3. And it's just going to continue from there.
It's just going to continue. It'll keep
amazing.
continuing for as long as it can continue. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, congratulations, Mama Maria.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So we have decided that we're going to end each episode with just about 5 to 10 minutes talking about some food item, right? Because that's what started the podcast.
Yes, this is it. Yeah.
And and it could be anything food related. It could be something that we made. It could be a restaurant we went to. It could be something that we ate, whatever. Right. Yep. So,
okay.
So for me, the thing that, so, you know, I didn't take advantage of COVID and being home to like try all these new recipes. I just didn't. But what we did do is we did a couple of Jeremiah's online classes for the Holy Spirit Portuguese Club, which is what we started early at school. And so, it's so fun. I have to say, Jeremiah has such a great thing going, and he's such a great instructor and makes it fun and interactive. And we made, the most recent thing we made was serradura. I hope I'm saying it right. Serradura,
yep,
right?
Serradura, yep.
So easy. I mean, kids, like these are 6 and 7-year-olds that are making it, right? That's so right. It was so easy. There's like 3 ingredients, and you just need an electric hand mixer and a rolling pin to smash the bolacha Maria, and it's awesome. And one thing I love too is that he was like, you can add strawberries, you can add chocolate, you can add blueberries, like you can add stuff to it, which kind of, you know, made it even more fun for the kids. So shout out to Jeremiah.
Yes, we love him.
If you haven't taken his online food courses, it's you learn, right?
Yeah, it's classes.
Yeah.
It's baking
it's a class.
Class.
There you go.
Yes,
class.
Baking class. Yeah.
So all right. So that's my food thing.
Well, what's funny is I also did a cooking class or a baking class with Jeremiah. And even though I was trying different recipes at home, and I did cook so much at home, as we already discussed, what my husband did as a Christmas gift, this was a cute little gift. And because we couldn't be together for, you know, cooking and baking, what he did is he spoke to Jeremiah. He reached out to Jeremiah, and we will include a link to his classes on this end of the podcast here. So he reached out to Jeremiah and he said, I'd like to do a baking class for Maria and for my 3 daughters, and just do a private class with the 4 of them. And can we do that? And of course, Jeremiah said yes. And like you said, he is the sweetest person. And
he is.
I adore him, and I know you do too. And so what we did was a class for making pastéis de nata.
Nice.
Because yes, because again, I've said this before to other people. My mom did not make pastéis de nata. She made queijadas de leite. That is what
Ah,
I
okay.
grew up with. It was the milk tarts. There was no, puff pastry made. There was
Hmm.
no, tempering this with that, and it was a 3-hour class,
Wow. Well,
and so
side note, Jeremiah does a Quijadas de Leite class for kids also because
yeah,
it's a
because
super simple recipe.
it
Yeah.
is such a simple
It's
recipe.
only an
And
hour and it's, the kids don't lose their
exactly,
focus.
exactly. So
But so how
what
did they come out?
amazing. And what's even better was that my daughters got to make it. And my
Is it the
daughter,
first time they had
for the
ever?
first time, because
That's amazing.
I've always bought it. I have so many Portuguese bakeries locally. So there's no need for
Yeah,
me to
rub it
learn
in,
how
rub
to
it
make it.
in.
There are plenty of people who have that recipe in their cookbooks. I'm like, I am
Hmm.
not even going to attempt it because I know how much work it is. And I'm like, I don't need to learn how to make it. I'm like,
Hmm.
it's not something I grew up with, whatever. I love eating it. I love, whatever. But there's so
Hmm.
many great people around me that make it that I'm like, but I am so glad I made it. So
That's
if I ever
amazing.
do want
That's
to make
great.
it, I can make it.
Yeah.
But it was 3 hours. And what I loved more than anything is that the traditions now are being passed on to our girls
Yes.
in
And
a
what's
whole
nice
different
too
way.
about that is that it takes the pressure off of you maybe feeling like you don't know how to do it, right? So
Yeah,
like if you want to pass on the traditions to your kids or even start to learn, and cookbooks can be very descriptive and have all the details, but it's still not the same as if you have someone there, answer your questions like, hey, is this the right consistency? Because you can actually like hold
right.
your bowl up to the
Yep,
screen and like show
yep,
him and he'll be like,
yep,
yeah, that looks pretty good, or why don't you add
yep.
more of this? So it takes the pressure off of, like, for example, like if you said you don't really feel the need to make them, but you love eating them, and so if you had never made them before, how would you teach someone to make them, right? So but
Exactly.
now both you
Yeah,
and your daughters know how to
right.
make them, so it's such a great way to just intro yourself into start making stuff.
Yeah,
And like I said, take the pressure off of whether or not you have the right technique or know how to do or whatever.
yeah.
So,
And the
so
whole thing is, when it comes to making puff pastry is like, oh my
a
God, it takes
lot of work.
days to make puff pastry. But he
Hmm.
taught us to make a faster puff pastry.
Oh, okay.
And so it was a type of thing where he goes, yeah, I'm going to give you not the regular, like, but we can do it this way. And it's less time and it takes, and even at that, it was a 3-hour class.
Yeah.
So it was wonderful. I highly recommend it. As far as anyone is concerned, everyone who thinks they know how to bake or know how to make everything, it's good to kind of learn from and see how someone else makes it and to learn
Yeah.
something new. And I definitely do not know how to bake everything, and I definitely don't know how to cook everything, and I will
Hmm.
never say I do. There's reasons why people are, amazing at it and stuff. And he actually is putting together a cookbook on Portuguese baking.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's
And
been in the works for a while.
it's been in
Yeah.
the
I
works for
can't
a
wait.
while. Yes, me too. And as far as that, he went to Portugal. He went to
And learn from
Portugal
like the
and learned
best. Yeah.
from the best there is, and they opened their doors to him. And it's no wonder they did and gave him secrets of how to make this and how to do
Hmm.
that, because they don't do that with everyone. But he is that sweet, he is that nice, and they could
We have
see his
to,
love and passion for it. So
yeah.
yeah.
We have to ask him is if someone gave him the recipe for, um, was it the feijão? Queijadas de feijão?
Yes,
What's the one that no one gives you the recipe for?
the one for
The
feijão,
feijão, yeah.
the bean recipe. And the other day I mentioned it to my sister, who, all her friends, are always baking and all that stuff and whatever. And I said to Isabel, Isabel, do any of your friends make quichadas de feijão? Because all I've gotten from before from other people are like, oh yeah, and they take a picture and it's from a recipe from someone's book. I'm like, I don't want that. I want, don't give me that. I don't want that. That's their recipe. I want to know, like, and of course I talk to my family. Oh, we just buy it. Oh no. See, and this is what happens. Then things start getting lost.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
I know.
yeah, I gotta,
Well,
I
Maria,
actually have to. Okay, it's that time. It's
it
that
is. We
time.
got to wrap it up. I
We
mean,
gotta
we
wrap
we
it
could
up.
just keep going for like
But we're
4
not.
hours.
No, we're gonna stick to
No,
it. We're gonna stick to it.
we are.
Yeah.
It's our new mid-year resolution.
Yes. Yes. We're gonna have a time, and we're gonna do things a little differently. And because there are a lot of lessons learned, and we're just gonna have fun with this,
Yeah.
and keep promoting all things that are Portuguese. And this is really exciting, and I'm really excited to be back again.
Yeah, it feels good. It feels natural. It feels like it's the right time. And
Yeah, I
so
agree. I
thanks
agree.
to all of our listeners for being patient and
Yes.
understanding. And
Yes.
send us your comments. Do you want us to talk about something specific? Do you have questions? We
You want to
love
share your
to hear from you.
family, your family feijão,
Yeah.
feijão recipe?
Right. But we love hearing from our listeners.
Yes.
So
Yeah, we
please
do.
send us your thoughts. And of course, we got to do the plug. Subscribe to the
Yes.
podcast. Write us a review on iTunes.
Yes.
Share the podcast with friends and family, so that more people can join us at our Portuguese table. So,
Yes. Wonderful.
And with that, until next time. Até a próxima.
Até a próxima.
Até a próxima.
All right, honey. Love you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Love you. Bye. That was great.
That was really wonderful.
I think that turned out awesome.
Yes, it did.